Coach Ryan here with the Athlete Academy in Salisbury, Maryland, and I'm excited to bring you this week's Whiteboard Wisdom. So what I'm going to talk about today is strength training. More specifically, I'm going to give you guys an idea of how we implement strength training with our program, with our athletes, within our four walls here at the Athlete Academy. I'm going to talk about what is our goal. Why do we do what we do in regards to strength training? How do we do it? How do we specifically implement strength training with groups of athletes? I'm going to go over a common strength training misconception within the sports performance realm. And then I'm going to give you guys an idea. I'm going to go through a sample daily workout just to give you guys a little bit better perspective onto how we do things. So we talk about, first off, what is our goal? Why do we do what we do? So what we really are here is ability builders. And what I mean by that is our whole goal is to have an athlete reach their full physical potential. So take, for example, a baseball player that comes in here. My goal isn't to make him a better baseball player directly. What I want to do is I'm going to make him the best athlete possible. I want to make him stronger, more explosive, right? So really when an athlete's done training with us and they're looking back at their career, like our biggest goal is that the athlete never has to think, I wish I was a little faster. I wish I was a little stronger. Or I wish I didn't get hurt. We want to control all of those variables and help that athlete realize their specific physical ceiling. How do we do it? So if those are not familiar with the Athlete Academy, we do things in like a small group training environment, so where you can have up to 12 athletes per group. So when you have 12 athletes per group, they're all at completely different stages of physical development. So what we do here is we have a very intensive evaluation process. We take them through movement screens, and what we're really looking for is to try to find that athlete's specific strengths and weaknesses. Once we have a good idea of where that athlete physically is at, we place them into a group. In our groups here at the Athlete Academy, we have an A group, a B group, and a C group. Our C group is our very foundational group. So that's athletes that have little to no training history, and we're really trying to build a base. So we're trying to teach them how to brace. We're trying to teach them how to handle some internal loading. We're trying to teach them how to squat properly, how to hinge properly, right? Scapular retraction, all these foundational movement patterns that are going to carry with them for the rest of their career. There's very little focus on external loading, right? We're really focused on making sure that they can do the basics incredibly well. Our B program is for athletes that have some sustained level of training with us. So what they do here is we move into a little bit more intensive movements. We're throwing more weight on them. We're using barbells. We're focusing a little bit more on external loading. Movement is always our biggest focus. If an athlete doesn't move well, it has zero transfer over to the field. So don't get me wrong, movement's always the foundation, always our biggest emphasis. But at the same time, in our B group, we do start looking for more of putting more weight on the bar, really trying to push that limit. And then we get into our A group. Our A group is athletes that have a pretty substantial level of sustained training with us. They've trained with us for a long period of time. They're very technically proficient in all of the movements we want them to do, right? So no matter what we're doing, we're not worried about them doing it improperly, and we know that they can do it safely. So that way we can really focus on putting weight on the bar, strengthening, getting them stronger, getting them more powerful, right? So when athletes in those three groups, you might be like, okay, well, how do I have three different groups going on right now or simultaneously within one training session? So what we use a differentiation modification protocol. So what we do here is, say the main emphasis for that day is a squat, right? So everyone's doing some sort of squat that day. What we do, though, is we break it down by regressions and progressions. So our C group, for example, that's our foundational group again. They're going to be doing like a goblet squat with a tempo. So we're not having a huge external load. We're making the time under tension increase by, 3 seconds down. You got to hold out at the bottom for 2 seconds. We're really getting them familiar with their bodies. And we're making movements more challenging without throwing a ton of extra weight that's going to add dysfunction. Our B group, again, they've been training with us for a little bit of a sustained period of time. What they're going to be doing is they're going to do a front squat. So again, now we're throwing a barbell in there. The ability to have more of an external load is there because we can put plates on the side. It's a little bit more complex. You're using more musculature. It's more of a compound movement, but it's not directly spinal loaded. It's a great middle ground. For our A group, which again is our advanced group, they're going to be doing a back squat. The ability to externally load is very high there. It's directly spinal loading. You have to have a good level of technical proficiency in order to have transfer over to the field, right? Like I said, and I can't reiterate it enough, dysfunctional movement has no transfer over to the field. We need to make sure athletes are moving well. So you've got 3 different movements. Athletes are doing what's best for them at that specific time in regards to their development. And we're doing that all within one group, right? So how we do this also when we look at our programming standpoint is a biggest problem we face is a lot of our athletes play multiple sports. They're always in season. Their travel ball is such a priority. It's a lot different than college or professional strength and conditioning where you can look down and you know exactly when your dominant period of time is. So a baseball player, you know, hey, everything I do is to get ready for the spring. Or a professional football player, hey, I've got to get them ready to be ready for training camp in August. I keep the theme of the baseball player going. That baseball player might also play soccer in the fall, and he might wrestle in the winter, on top of travel ball in the summer. All of those are a priority, so we really don't have a priority training period. So we've got to be really smart with our programming. So what we do is all of our programs are concurrent in nature. So what that means is we're working all athletic traits at one time. So we're doing some sort of explosive movement, some sort of strength movement, and some sort of hypertrophy movement all within one training session so we can check off all those boxes. And the way we do that too is when we look at our phases, we have 3 to 4 week phases in which we'll go with an alternating linear model. So we'll go with a hypertrophy phase where we're doing a lot more capacity work. It's lighter weights for more reps, really just trying to develop a base. Or that's a time where we might reintroduce a new movement, but really it's a back off on their central nervous system. We can give their bodies a little bit more of like a break from that intense work. So we do that for 3 to 4 weeks, and then we move into intensification phase. We're moving weights a little bit heavier weights. We're really pushing that envelope. We're really pushing their CNS, and we're really trying to get a lot of results. And as soon as they're like fried from that, we just cycle back over to the hypertrophy phase. So it's a constant roll over through the phases. So a sample workout here, and we're very template driven, so we want to make sure there's as little guesswork from the athletes as possible. You know, when they come in, they've got so many other variables on their day. We want them to know, hey, this is what I've got at this time. They get used to a system. So a sample workout we have here. So what I'm going to go over is what we really do here is we keep it basic. We've always noticed with middle school, high school, and even collegiate athletes, simplicity is always going to get us our best results. So we go big or fast movements to slow movements. So you can tell here, and I'll go into more detail in a second. We've got our jump. So that's our fast movement, moving into more of our isolation movements or our slow movements. And then we also go big to small. So we're doing movements that hit more musculature at one time before we move into some more of our isolation work. Okay, so if I look at a sample workout, we'll say that this is a primary, like an A or a Monday workout for our A group. So we're going to start with a power movement, where our A1 is a weighted box jump. So if you look at these, just for more clarification, we would do our A's together, our B's together, and our C's together. So these are all supersets within one workout. So we got our weighted box jump. So we've got our compound explosive movement. You can tell here we've got a weight in there. That's for our A group. They can handle more of an external load. If I was to look at our C group, for example, they might just be doing a depth drop. We're working on just learning how to absorb force. So they're both getting a bilateral jump, but one's more of a progression where we're really pushing it. The other one's more we're teaching. And I can give you guys more examples as we go on. But what we're going to do is we're going to pair that with a couch stretch. So you see athletes all the time, or just kids in general, they sit at their computers, they sit at their TVs, their hip flexors are tight. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw a movement prep movement in there that's going to get us ready for our main work. So we're going to go with a couch stretch. So that's when our foot's elevated and we're really stretching that hip flexor. So we're able to rest for this by hitting in some prep work. Then when that's done, we're going to go over to our main focus. So that's going to be a trap bar deadlift. So this is a lower body bilateral hip dominant movement. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to go with a push-pull philosophy to where we're going to pair that with a banded face pull. So we're going to go with like a lower body push with an upper body pull. Antagonist muscle groups, they don't interfere with each other. By doing face pulls with our trap bar deadlift, we're not going to get more tired. But with athletes too, time is a priority. We've got to be able to get as much work done in a short amount of time. So we don't have time to just sit there and do one movement. We've got to be able to make sure we're getting the most out of that training session we possibly can. So pairing movements is key. So they're going to go from a trap bar deadlift to a banded face pull. Once they're done those, we move into our capacity work. We move into our bodybuilding work, what I like to call like our body armor sets, to where we're really just trying to hit those muscle groups that aren't the priority for that day, so that way we're more resistant to injury. So we're going to go with a single arm dumbbell bench. So say, for example, our A group's doing that. That's a unilateral upper body push. There's a lot of core component in there. We really like to do a lot of that stuff, like the buy one, get one. So we're not only getting an upper body push, but we're getting a great anti-rotation training aspect in there. So an upper body push. For our A group, they're going to do the single arm dumbbell bench. Our C group, for example, they might just be doing a push-up. So we're taking the load out of it. We're making it a little bit easier for them, and our goal, again, is to progress them up. They're going to pair that with a slider leg curl, which just a posterior chain dominant movement. And then we're going to throw a core. So we're going to go with an anti-rotation movement. So what we have here is we've got an upper body push, lower body pull, and then we've just got a core. So we're hitting everything that we need within one workout. And I just want to go over a quick misconception within sports performance. So if you guys watch back to one of our earlier videos, Coach Cody talked about it, but I think it's really important to talk about how we do things here. And we don't train sports specific in here. I like to use the phrase athlete specific training. So no matter what sport you play, that athlete specific weaknesses are going to hold them back, right? It doesn't matter what sport you play. If you've got weak hamstrings, no lower back, and you can't use your glutes, you're not going to be a great athlete. So our whole goal is to get those better. When it comes to sport specific, what we do though is we program for them based off an injury prevention standpoint. So all of our athletes get individualized to them sport-specific prehab work, to where we're working on giving them things in here that they don't get on the field. So for an example, if I'm looking at the baseball player again, they do a lot of rotation-based work. So I'm going to do some anti-rotational based work, right? I'm trying to combat overuse injuries. For our field athletes, we're doing a lot of hamstring specific work. We're looking on glute med activation. So we really try to look at what they're getting too much of in their sport and how we can combat that in here and create a more well-rounded, developed athlete. So that's it for strength training here. That was a basic overview. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out via email. We're going to do follow-up emails or follow-up videos on this where we get into a little bit more detail. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. Have a great rest of your day.